Welcome to yet another episode on the Harmonixx Tuning YouTube channel. In today's episode, we are going to be showcasing you guys the Stage 3 and the Stage 2 cars that we built for our customers, and we are going to showcase the difference between the stock turbo car and the pure 800 car to show you how much of a difference a turbo upgrade can make to these engines. In a very short span of time, these cars have become one of the most tuner-friendly cars in India. With simple basic Stage 2 bolt-on mods, these cars can make anywhere between 450 horsepower to 500 horsepower. And once you upgrade the turbos on these cars, you can make up to 700 horsepower without any issue at all. One of the key reasons why these M340i's have become so popular in the tuning circles is the fact that these cars are completely built in India. So BMW calls this India's fastest production car, and at a price of 85 lakhs, a lot of enthusiasts are upgrading from their VRS's to the M340i's. Let's pop the hood and show you guys what mods we are running on the Stage 3 M340i. So as you can see from this video, the car looks predominantly stock when you look at it from the outside. But once you take off this engine cover, you will notice quite a few interesting mods that we have lined up on this car. Under the hood, we have some basic bolt-on mods, starting with the MST cold air intake. We also have installed a Berger Motorsports catch can kit, and one of the most important mods for the B58 engines that we recommend to all our clients is the CSF intake manifold. Given that in India we predominantly have very high ambient temperatures, the intake air temperatures on these cars rise up to about 60 to 70 degrees on the summer days, and that causes the ECU to drop power in order to help the engine run safely. So we recommend the CSF intake manifold, and shockingly what we've seen in the data logs is these intake manifolds have reduced the intake air temperatures by about 30 to 40 degrees depending on what the temperature in the day is. And once you install the CSF intake manifold, the stock charge pipe will not fit. That is why we have upgraded the charge pipe with an FTP charge pipe on this car. If you come closer to this side of the engine bay, you can see the pure 800 turbo installed over here, along with the decat downpipe that we've got from MST. So in order to get all of these mods working correctly on the car, we had to send the ECU out to Finland not once but actually twice to get the ECU unlocked so that we could tune the car. So when we got the ECU unlocked for the first time, we actually were running a Stage 2 setup on this car, and on the drag strip it did about 11.6 seconds on the quarter mile. Unfortunately, when we sent the car to BMW for an M Performance big brake kit upgrade, BMW ended up locking the ECU again, and that is when we had to send the ECU back to Finland for a second time, and we decided, what the hell, let's just go with a bigger turbo and see what these engines could do. So once we got the car back from BMW after the big brake upgrade, there was a check engine light on the dash. On careful observation, we also noticed that the sports displays had recalibrated themselves to the stock numbers on the M340i, and that is how we knew that the ECU was locked. Once we had decided to go Stage 3 on this car, picking the turbo for this build was not an easy choice. Given that the B58 engine has dime a dozen options for turbo upgrades, we wanted something that is very easy to install, as well as something that would spool really quick and not make the car extremely laggy to drive on a daily basis. We kept breaking our head for several weeks in order to decide on the turbo, and finally we picked the Pure 800 for the simple reason that it is very easy to install. It was tried and tested, and people were making upwards of 700 horsepower on these turbos as well. Another huge advantage of the Pure 800 turbo was it spools really nice. So somewhere in the video we'll put up the dyno chart between this particular Pure 800 setup and a stock M340i. One of the hugest advantages that we had while picking the Pure 800 turbo was the fact that it spools really quick. So that makes daily driving very easy and very comfortable without humongous amounts of lag. So as you can see in the dyno chart, the pure turbo starts making more power and torque right from about 3200 RPM onwards, all the way up to redline, which is at 6800. We promised you guys a comprehensive guide on how to mod your M340i, and if you're one of those M340i owners who doesn't want to spend upwards of 20 lakhs to mod your 340i, then you come to the right place. Say hello to India's fastest stock turbo M340i with just 3 mods. Yes, you guys heard that right. This car runs just 3 basic bolt-on mods: an MST intake, an MST decat downpipe, and a CSF heat exchanger. This car is currently doing a 0 to 100 in 3.4 seconds, a 100 to 200 in 8.6 seconds, and an unfathomable quarter mile of 11.3 seconds, making this car the fastest 3-litre stock turbo car in the country right now. What we love about the stock turbo M340i build is the near instantaneous pull you get from the stock turbo. Imagine 700 Newton meters of torque pushing you back into the seat on a daily basis. And this is on our daily map. Our race map makes a phenomenal 850 Newton meters of torque. As goes with any stock turbo, these turbos practically run out of steam post 6000 RPM. That is just how stock turbos behave. That is one of the reasons why a lot of people upgrade to bigger turbos, because they want the top end power band to go up by quite a significant margin. We are now back in the Stage 3 M340i, and first impressions when you drive these cars back to back is the little bit of lag that the Stage 3 car has compared to the Stage 2 car. While the Stage 2 car has literally instant throttle response, when you dab the throttle on the pure 800 car, it takes a little bit of time, and when the boost kicks in, it kicks in really hard. And unlike the stock turbo car, this car does not lose out of steam post 6000 RPM. In fact, it revs all the way to 6800 RPM and makes nearly 600 horsepower on our aggressive tune. Make no mistake, the M340i's are no corner craving machines. These cars are huge, they are front end heavy, and when you push them into the corners, they do understeer quite a bit. Initially, we were planning to showcase just the 2 grey cars, one running the pure 800 and the other running the Stage 2. However, there is a very important question that we wanted to answer for our viewers. Over the years, a lot of the M340i owners have asked us repeatedly the same question. Can we safely run a decat downpipe or a race cat downpipe on our M340i's without unlocking the ECU and getting the engine tuned? And in today's video, we are going to be explaining the pros and cons of doing both. So let us break down the all-important question that we've been asked at least a million times. What you guys are seeing on your monitors right now is the data log of the M340i with an aftermarket race cat downpipe. The line that you're seeing here is the engine RPM, and this is the throttle position. Now let's pull up the boost pressure target and overlay that with the boost pressure actual. Immediately, what is very obvious is that instead of the boost pressure actual line following the path of the boost pressure target line, it is spiking quite erratically. This is because the aftermarket downpipe is allowing a higher flow of the exhaust gases through it, thus sending irregular readings to the ECU. So what the ECU does in order to compensate for the erratic boost curve is, it shuts the throttle to bring the boost back to target levels. This method of shutting the throttle abruptly puts undue pressure on the turbo, thus increasing the wear and tear massively. This is the main cause for turbo failures across all platforms, and one of the key reasons why we have always refused to install an aftermarket downpipe on any car if the owner wasn't going to tune the ECU. So let's take a closer look into this data log. As you can see, the throttle starts shutting as early as 2785 RPM, and it predominantly remains shut for the entire range of the RPM up until 6100 RPM. Now let us look at the data log from the same car running the same exact hardware, but with the Stage 2 95 RON boot mode OTS tune flashed to the ECU. Once again, we are looking at the engine RPM and the throttle position over here. Now let us overlay the boost pressure target and the boost pressure actual. As you can clearly see, the boost pressure actual is no longer behaving erratically like it was doing on the stock ECU tune, and now is nearly following the boost pressure target curve until the higher end RPMs, where the stock turbo just can't flow enough to make the requested boost. Now let us overlay the throttle angle, and as you can see, it is fascinating that there is zero throttle closures anywhere in the RPM range with a proper ECU tune. We hope this puts an end to this whole debate of, but my tuner said my car will run without any issues if I run an aftermarket downpipe without a tune. We have for a very long time been wanting to share this info publicly. However, we've just not had the time until now to put all this data across in a way that even a common man can understand. So to sum it up, if you own any car and want more sound or pops and bangs, kindly get a proper ECU tune so that your turbo and your engine will thank you. From our reading of the data logs, it is very obvious that running an aftermarket downpipe on a stock ECU tune actually hampers the performance as the ECU starts shutting the throttle in order to protect the engine from the erratic boost spikes. Now let us take a look at the dyno charts of the same car to see what is happening on the power and the torque front. As you can see over here, between 2800 RPM and about 3500 RPM, and again between 4400 RPM to 5000 RPM, the car with the downpipe actually starts to lose power in both the ranges. Now let's look at the torque curve where it is more obvious. Again, the portions you see over here is basically where the downpipe actually causes the ECU to lose power instead of making more power. We hope this makes it very clear to all the M340i owners that apart from actually getting more sound by replacing the downpipe with an aftermarket one, they are actually losing performance on the cars by doing this. So that is why we keep telling people all the time not to run an aftermarket downpipe unless you plan to tune your ECU. When we started tuning these M340i's a couple of years ago, we couldn't dyno them on a two-wheel drive dyno, and hence it was very difficult for us to figure out how much power we could make on these reliably. So we had left a little bit of power on tap based on the road logs that we did on these cars. Now that we are able to dyno these cars on a two-wheel drive dyno, a lot of it has changed since. We were able to do a couple of revisions quickly on the dyno, and up top, that is from 5000 RPM to about 6500 RPM, we made a whooping 30 to 40 horsepower more with just a couple of revisions on the dyno. So now that we are able to accurately measure what these cars can do, Darshan has ordered a few more mods for this car, and those are going to be installed probably in the month of March. And our aim is to make about another 50 to 80 horsepower more on the current setup as is, with just some basic add-on mods. While dyno testing the cars, we are also going to be logging them to make sure that they're running fine. Here what we are doing is we are loading all the logging parameters into our software so that we can data log all these. The dyno chart on your screen right now is of the Pure 800 car. Let us compare the stock M340i with the Pure 800 and see how the curves are behaving based on the different fuel maps that we are running on this car. The black line you see over here is basically the stock car, and that made about 370 horsepower. The blue line is of the 95 round map that we are running on this Pure 800, and that made 517 horsepower. And the red curve is our most aggressive map that makes about 600 horsepower. Now let's take a look at the torque curves for the Pure 800 car. The black curve you see here is basically the stock curve for the torque, and that makes about 565 Newton meters of torque. The blue curve is for the 95 round map, and that makes about 700 Newton meters of torque. And the red curve is for the most aggressive tune that we have on this Pure 800 car, and that makes about 831 Newton meters of torque. So the biggest difference you see from both the horsepower and the torque curves is the fact that the top end on the Pure 800 is very nice and it doesn't drop off like it does on the stock turbo car. Now let's take a look at the dyno charts of the stage 2 car and compare that with the stock car. The black line you see over here is basically the stock car that made about 373 horsepower. The blue line is our custom 95 on stage 2 tune, and that made about 415 horsepower. And the red line is the most aggressive tune for the stage 2 car, and that made about 474 horsepower. Let's take a look at the torque curve. The black line over here is the stock M340i, and that car made about 564 Nm. The blue line is on our 95 round tune, and that made 718 Nm of torque. And the red line is basically our most aggressive tune, and that made a phenomenal 845 Newton meters of torque. The dyno charts that you're seeing on the screen right now is the difference between the Boot Mode 3 OTS tunes and a custom 95 round tune. The green lines here represent the Boot Mode 3 OTS tunes, and the red lines represent the 95 round custom tune we have done on this car with our tuners in the US. A lot of people only focus on the peak horsepower numbers and the peak torque numbers that are shown on both the graphs. Between 3000 to 5000 RPM, a custom RON 95 round tune makes a whooping 40 to 50 horsepower more in the mid-range than the Boot Mode 3 OTS tune. A lot of the M340i owners ask us why they need to do a custom tune on their cars, and we hope this dyno chart answers that question. With the custom tune, we can always push the car a little more and get the maximum potential out of the car based on the hardware that you're running on it. We have flashed the Multimap Stage 2 file with Boot Mode 3 on this car, and now we are going to show you guys how to put the car into the multimap mode so that we can select the tunes. So first you will have to hold this cruise control button all the way down for a few seconds. As you can see, it goes to map 1, that is map 2, that is map 3, and that is map 4. So now you go down the other way to select whatever map you want. Once you select the map, you basically leave it in that position, and once it resets the RPM meter, that is the map that will be finally selected. Also, the car has been running on its most aggressive map, which makes about 600 horsepower and 830 Nm of torque for the last 3 months. And since the availability of XP100 is going to be very iffy in all the places that he is going to, we are going to be filling up some XP95 fuel in the car today, and we are going to put the car back onto the 95 round tune, which makes about 518 horsepower and 700 Newton meters of torque. So today we are also going to show you guys how quick we can swap the maps on the Boot Mode 3 platform. So now that we've filled XP95 fuel in the car, the process of swapping the maps is very easy, and now we're going to show you how quick it is as well. All we need to do is go to the Boot Mode 3 app and select the map you want to flash, and then click on flash. So now it's basically clearing all the error codes and putting the ECU out of sleep mode, and practically that's how quick you can flash the maps on these cars. It takes about 8 to 15 seconds to swap between tunes, and that is one of the biggest advantages of using the Boot Mode 3 platform. We hope you guys loved our comprehensive guide on how to mod your B58 engine cars. In this episode, we not only covered the Stage 3 M340i, but we also showed you guys how simple bolt-on mods on the stock turbo M340i can make bucket loads of power. And more importantly, what not to do with your cars if you don't plan to unlock your ECU and tune it properly. Thank you for watching the video. Stay tuned for more updates on this M340i, which is going to go Stage 3 very soon. If you guys love the content that we're putting out for you guys, kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay tuned.